ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तनम् हृद्यन्तस्तु अभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतां। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाध्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्पद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिदन्तोतितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाथाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेवाय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरुन् मद महादन मद निस्तारक मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादाइन अति नीच ताकरा हा नामुंचा कदाचिन माम प्रेम न रिंद कंथयो स्पुरः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा। Welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. So let's get started. We are in the third canto, chapter number 27 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are continuing Sri Kapila Dev's teachings to Devahuti, and we are chapter 27 is titled Understanding Material Nature. And as I remember, we are in text number 17. 17. Okay. Let's just do a quick overview of this chapter. Okay, so would you like to turn on your cameras? You're welcome to do so. So, uh, so what is this chapter? So, in the previous chapter, we focused on the aspects of Sankhya and we understood all the 24 elements. And then, continuing from that point, here Kapila Dev is actually explaining uh, that how the jiva actually can get liberated. Okay, we understand the philosophy of Sankhya, all these different elements and how we are separate from all these, and we studied about consciousness and then coming to a point of Paramatma, right? So, how does jiva finally gets liberated from this covering of the Sankhya, or while being in this presence of the 24 elements, how can the jiva get liberated? Right? So we started this chapter by making the point that how the jiva actually is pure, right? It is untouched by these modes of material nature. Although it is situated in the Prakriti, it is actually unaffected by the modes of material nature. Then why does a contamination come about? Right. So we discussed this. Um, right. So the first verse of the chapter is basically making the point that although the living entity is living in this material body, he is not affected by the modes of material nature. Right. And hence he remains unchanging, free from proprietorship or doership. And just the example, what was the example that was given? When the sun is reflected in water and when the wind blows and the reflection of the sun moves, is the sun affected? No. So similarly, the jiva, though it is in this material world, is actually not affected. But then after making the point that jiva is not affected, then how is it that we are actually one way stuck in this material world? And then further Kapila Muni makes the point that like he comes to a point of, he says due to ahankar, right? Ahankriya vimuda, that because of the ahankar he thinks that, oh, I am the doer. And when he thinks that I am the doer, then what is the consequence? He said dhyato vishayan asya, like how in Bhagavad Gita we have dhyato vishayan pumsa. Same thing, that because the jiva out of false ego thinks that I am the doer, thinks that I am the controller, though he is not, he actually absorbs his mind in material objects. And as soon as that contemplation comes, because of the false ego, the jiva actually gets entangled. And then what does jiva do? Then the jiva actually he does faulty action, and because of that, he is actually in the samsara chakra. Sometimes good birth, sometimes lower birth, and so on. Right? So this is the cause why the jiva is actually stuck in this material world. And then what is the solution? One should actually engage in bhakti yoga with detachment. So that was the first section of this chapter. Now, second, because the section is we are discussing of this aspect of Sankhya. So now Kapila Muni, the whole chapter is how can a jiva get liberated. So from the philosophy of Sankhya or Jnana Yoga, how does the jiva get liberated? Then we actually talked of 18 qualities that the jiva needs to cultivate to get liberated from this material world, right? So then we talked of like seeing all living entities with an equal vision, having no enmity, no intimate connections, being celibate, being grave, then regulated eating, living in a secluded place. So we discussed all these qualities. And also Prabhupada in the purport, he actually gives all these qualities in terms of devotional service. Like what does it mean for a devotee to actually eat less, only have Krishna Prasadam, right? And what does it mean for a devotee to be secluded? That means he is only in the association of devotees. He avoids the association of non-devotees. So Prabhupada gives a devotional explanation to all these 18 points. Right? And then the previous section, the third section as such, is basically saying how does the jiva always be conscious that yes, the super soul exists, right? We read the point about how, let me see, so it makes the point. Looking for a particular Sanskrit word that's being used, which is actually important. Satya, yeah, Satyadha. Is that? Mhm. Okay, I'm not finding it. But in this section, there is a particular point that he actually, the jnani the Sankhya Yogi, he actually knows that the super soul is always there. Like, that consciousness that yes, Paramatma is always there, Paramatma is there, Paramatma is there. That feeling of that truth, that conviction that the Paramatma is always there, that is there in the Jiva, right? So how does he actually develop that? And then we read of the example that when the sun is actually reflected in water, and when a reflection of water is seen in a wall of a room, right? And we may have this experience that, let's say from the window and there's a water body next to the window, then the sun is reflected in the window. And because the sun is reflected in the window, that reflection comes on the wall inside the room. So, similarly, using that example, the point is explained that through these reflection of reflection, the jnani always has this mood, consciousness that yes, I am a jiva and the Paramatma exists. Like the important point is always for a jnani to be conscious that yes, Paramatma is there, Paramatma is there, Paramatma is there, right? For us in bhakti, our path is we have that conviction that Krishna is there, right? Krishna is a proprietor, Krishna is a real friend, Bhoktaram Yakatapasam Sarva Lokam Maheshwaram. We want to always be conscious of Krishna as Bhagwan. But for the jnanis going through this process, then he needs to be always conscious. Yes, Paramatma is there, Paramatma. So that's the point. So hence, based on this reflection of reflection, the jnani concludes the presence of the soul and the presence of the super soul, Paramatma. Right? So that was that section. Now, after this section, then 14, 15, and 16 is basically saying, uh, what is the soul without material coverings? Right? What is the Atma without these 24 elements? Right? So in text number 14, maybe someone can just read translations for 14, 15, and 16. Then we'll continue with text number 17, which is the next question there that Devotee is asking. Okay. Would like to read?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go ahead. Vamshi.
14 translation. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and the material mind and intelligence, is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. Can I continue, Prabhu?
Um, Okay, so what is one minute, bro. So basically, what is the point? Although like Prabhupada is giving that devotional explanation, although a devotee appears to be merged in five materials. So let's consider a jiva who is here in this material world, right, and practicing the Sankhya. He's come to the point where he's actually become free from ahankar. Then, even though, so it says Vinidraha, awake and free from false ego, but appears to be asleep. Why? Because he's actually surrounded by these material elements. Like that is his body, the covering, which is actually consists of senses, mind, intelligence, Indriya, Manaha, Buddhi. Right? Okay. Then further, yes, bro. Go
15 translation. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer, but because of the disappearance of the ego during the state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost, like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost.
Okay, so what is the point now? So see, the jiva has, so I'll ask again later that if you're following this point. See, the jiva, based on the entire process in the previous chapter about analyzing Sankhya, coming to the point of understanding how the jiva one way is away, is aloof from all these interactions, and then the jiva comes to the point of through analysis, understanding I exist and Paramatma exists, right? And then through that philosophical speculation, he comes to the point of yes, Paramatma is there, and actually I am not of this material world. So that false ego of identifying or enjoying this material world that gets cleared out for that jnani, the Sankhya yogi. Okay. Now, at that stage, what happens? So here it is made the point that although not lost, falsely he thinks himself lost because there is no ahankar. See, the point is that of identity. See, when the jiva, the ahankar is taken away, and he still does not have the positive that I am servant of Krishna, Jiva Swarupa Krishna Nityata, what is his position? Negative identity is gone away, but positive is not there. So what happens? The jiva considers, I'm lost. Right? So that is this verse actually saying. And the example is given very nicely that if a person has a lot of money and the money is somehow lost, then what does the person think? Oh, I am lost. But is he really lost? No, as long as he identifies with the money, he thinks like, oh, I am the money, and hence the money is lost. He thinks he is lost. So similarly, for a jnani, because the false ego goes away, he thinks that he's lost. Right? So that is the what happens to a jnani. And we discussed this point last time. That for bhakti yogi, initially itself we come, and what is the point we have said? Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nitya. How many times we hear that? That means what? That yes, false ego, even though we have false ego, we are immediately saying, no, no, our real ego is there, real ego is there. That is servant of Krishna. Engage in service of Krishna, engage in servant of Krishna. The service of Krishna. That is emphasized again and again and again. Right? That is the path of bhakti. But for jnani, imagine they come all the way with all the analysis and they come to a point and then their false ego goes away and they're like, am I there? Do I exist? I feel like I'm lost. Yeah. And then continue, Prabhu. Text 16.
Hare Krishna. 16. When by mature understanding one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifested to him.
Right. So here it is making the point. Yes, the jiva thinks that, oh, I am lost because my false ego is there. I don't have any ego. But then this verse is saying, when after mature understanding, then he realizes that, oh, actually, I am pure individual soul. He understands. Then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest. That it is only out of ahankar that I have accepted all these situation. I had accepted I was a part of this material world, but actually I am not a part. So he becomes a witness. Right? So till the point of like I am servant of Krishna, my relationship with Krishna has not come yet. Right? And then Bhagavad Gita says what? Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Right? So everyone following to this point? Right? So imagine that first aspect of bhakti that is revealed to us for Jnani. It is after like so much, after 26th chapter, now 27th chapter, he's come to understand Paramatma. Even after that, he does not know that my real position is servant of Krishna. But at least he knows that I am not a proprietor, I am not an enjoyer. The false ego has gone away. Is this okay up to this point in this chapter? Anyone has any comments or it's like you wake up Sunday morning, we chant our rounds, we sit, and all of a sudden there's like a heavy bombardment of Sankhya philosophy. It's like, whoa, what is this? But I hope it is clear this flow, how we have come to this point. That the how did Jnani, he's like feels like I'm lost. I mean, I don't have ahankar. What is this, right? And this point, like we see in Bhagavad Gita also, right? How initially first chapter, what happens? All the identities that Arjun has, his identities are challenged. Right? He said, I am a powerful warrior, but he cannot lift his Gandiva. Right? And then he said, I am the great grandson of Bhishma. But if I fight, then Bhishma will kill. What will happen to that identity? So all those identities are taken away. Right? And then Arjun is lost. He's like, then hence he says, like, I don't know what to do, Krishna. Shall I fight? Shall I not fight? I don't know. Because all his identities were taken away, he was confused. And then Shisha Sam Shadi Mam Tam Prapanna, right? So we see that point about like when the identities are taken away, then what happens? So for the Jnani, through all the process, then he says, okay, I'm not false ego, I'm not false ego. Then what does he become? He becomes a witness that it was because of false ego as identified, but I'm actually aloof from everything. Witness.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Mata.
So the jnani, when it says mature understanding, he realizes that he realizes that does it mean that he has come to the stage of bhakti yet?
Uh, I mean, maybe yes or no. I mean, it could be both. It depends on the Gyani.
Also, is the green bird on the green tree, is that a good analogy for that one?
Yeah, so Prabhupada gives that analogy that when the green bird it actually enters into a green tree, it is not that it has become one with the tree. It still maintains its individuality. So how the example previously, like the whole point here in text 15 is basically that the jiva thinks that he's lost his individuality. And that's why from Jnani, from that stage to actually think that I am Brahman and merge into Brahman, it seems like like a natural flow. You see the point? Because his false ego is gone, he thinks that I don't have individuality. Then he says, "What am I? Oh, actually, I am Brahman." And then at that point, there is a danger that the Jnani may think that I am Param Brahman. You know. But the example of the green bird in a green tree, Prabhupada uses that to make the point that even though the Jnani may think that I am merging into Brahman effulgence, but still he maintains his individuality. The individuality is never lost. And hence Prabhupada quotes that verse so frequently. 10 to 32. Aruya Krishnena padam padam tata patanti ada nadrishta unga. Nadrishta, basically the verse is saying, Aruya Krishnena padam padam tata patanti ada. That the Gyanis, they think that I have attained liberation, but because they have not accepted the lotus feet of Krishna, then they're actually not liberated. So even though the Jnani may think that, oh, false ego is gone, I'm actually Brahman, that is a false understanding. And he'll fall down from that platform. So this platform here, which has been explained in text 15, is basically that verse of 10 to 32. That Prabhupada often quotes that, even though some may come to that platform, but he falls down from that platform because there is no positive connection, that he does not have knowledge of the lotus feet of Krishna. He has not accepted that. And unless one comes to a point of accepting the lotus feet of Krishna, he is not really liberated.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Everyone is with me?
So, Prabhu, how does then the positive realization comes? So there is two ways from here. Either you become the last snare of Maya, get the catch of it, or
Yeah.
otherwise you become a bhakta, realizes that. So, because do they come out from the seclusion and they meet bhaktas and something?
So the point, like how to explain, is yes, there are two things you explain very nicely. One is they think like, oh, I don't have individuality, they merge into Brahman. But that's the point I said, that that's a temporary position and they fall down from that position. Prabhupada often says, fall down. What does it mean? That they have come to this Brahman platform, but because there's no positive connection with Krishna, they come and they fall to a lower state. That is one. Second point is they come because see, everywhere there is some touch of bhakti. Because even for Jnani to progress, there is some touch of bhakti. So if that aspect of bhakti is more I would say like more prominent, then what happens, he realizes Paramatma and says, oh, Paramatma is the greater Atma, I am the insignificant Atma, hence I should actually surrender, I should serve. And hence in that position he may search out for a devotee, because if he wants to serve the Lord, then I need to know how to serve the Lord. And at that point, if he's sincere, then Krishna may connect him to a devotee, where a devotee says, oh, you should, do the limbs of bhakti, and that's how you serve the Lord. But at least that aspect of like, I am insignificant compared to that unlimited Paramatma. If that aspect is prominent, then Krishna will guide him to a devotee.
True. So, Prabhu, the example of Maitreya Rishi is could be accepted because he is a Paramatmavadi, right? Almost, because then somehow he came in contact with Krishna and Uddhavaji, and after that performed devotional service of, you know,
Hearing.
speaking Bhagavatam Katha, hearing, and then he
First
is
hearing and speaking. Yeah, yes, maybe. Yeah. One thing is like we are explaining this part. The thing is like, it's not that, like, I mean, there could be so much variation in this part because it all depends on the individual, right? Individual may have more bhakti, less bhakti, more, like, it is all like very personal. So it's, yeah. But I hope everyone has come to this point of Gyan, the flow of Gyan, and how that Gyan could lead to bhakti or the dangerous aspect of Gyan merging into the Brahman. Okay, so now we'll go to text 17 and we'll hear how Devotee she continues this question because the whole chapter is how can he get the Jiva get liberated? So up to 16 one way we have talked of one could be a false liberation where the Jnani is thinking I'm liberated, but actually he's not liberated. The other aspect is where he may come to bhakti. So that positive aspect is now a question by Devotee and answered by Kapila Dev. So now you'll see the next few verses. Then Kapila Dev will bring the aspect of, oh, you should do bhakti. You should do bhakti. So now we'll see like verses where he talks of the aspect of bhakti.
Rosie, one question is like, um, how does like a person who meets a devotee, or one may meet to Mayavada philosophy, like which decides? Is it the soul's desire, or how does that works, bro?
How does a jiva either meet a devotee or meet a Mayavadi? Is that your
Yeah,
question?
like at that point of time, like let's say he's a clean slate, but when he meets a devotee, he will come into this
Yeah.
part. And when he meets the other school, he will go to the other part.
Yeah. I mean, there is no clean slate, Prabhu. There's
Mm,
never a clean slate. There is always some desire, some impressions, you know.
mm,
And based on that, because based on like, Krishna knows what is the desire of the jiva. So even though that person may be innocently seeking, there is inherently some desire because of it he may get misguided or he may come to the path of bhakti. You know. And then see that, basically this question is coming to the point that how does a jiva get bhakti? And then it comes to like Madhuri Kadamini where Vishwanath Chakri Thakur makes a point. That actually, if we say that there's a particular cause behind the jiva coming in contact with bhakti, then that cannot be said because bhakti is always causeless. And then that discrimination that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes in Madhur Kadamini is basically the devotee who is Madhyam Adhikari. He goes out and he says, oh, this person, he has some innocence. Let me give him devotional service. So even more than that person selecting, it is actually Madhyam Adhikari is going out and giving that bhakti to other people. And it is a Madhyam Adhikari who is actually making the discrimination. You know. So whether the jiva meets a Mayavad or devotee, it is hard to say. Maybe yes, there are some samskars that may lead to it, but the more important aspect is the Madhyam Adhikari making a distinction. Where he's going and he's saying like, oh, I will give bhakti to this person. I will give bhakti to this person. Mm. Like, I mean, when you go out, you know, for distributing books, some of them are fortunate. Like some of them, let's say like a house, we knock on the door and that person is not at home. Other door we open, the person is at home. Like, how is all this? Like, we cannot explain all this, give a cause behind all this. But the Madhyam Adhikari, he actually sees and say, oh, this person is pious. Let me give him Mahaprasad. Let me give him Krishna's Mahakalyan. Let me give him Prabhupada's books. So that way there is one way no cost to bhakti. And that is like really emphasized by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So today actually also the disappearance of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we offer our obeisances to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur because all these explanations like we are reading Prabhupada and the other Acharya we discuss is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanations. So we are indebted to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur for giving us these explanations of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by his mercy, so we pray at his lotus feet that by his mercy he can bless us, that we can dive deep into the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Okay, so let's continue text 17. So 17, 18, 19 is Devavati's question because she's come to this point and she wants to understand. Okay, now he's come to the point that, okay, I don't have false ego, but how does he continue? Finally, like my question is, how do these people get liberated? Right? Okay, so 17.
Devahutiruvacha Purusham Prakritir Brahman Na Vimunchati Karhichit Anyonyapashraya Tvachcha Nityatvad Anayo Prabho.
Shri Devati inquired, My dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation possible? Hare Krishna.
So now Devoti is asking a very nice question. Okay, you realize that you're not the false ego, but the connection between Jiva and Prakriti, it appears to be eternal. Like in Bhagavad Gita, when we talk of the 5 eternal aspects or 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, 4 of them are eternal, except for karma. Out of them, 2 are what? Jiva and Prakriti. So both Jiva and Prakriti are eternal. Now, if Jiva and Prakriti both are eternal, and both of them are energies of the Lord, where one has the tendency to lord it over or enjoy the other, how can they ever be separated? When you talk of eternal means they're always there. So how can will they ever be separated? So hence the question is, Karichit. Karichit means, will that ever happen at any time? Can the jiva be separated? Does the prakriti vimunchati the prakriti give release to the jiva? Does that ever happen? Right? So that is her question. And then also the point is made, anyona apashrayate, right? So anyona, yeah. So anyona means to one another, and attraction. Because the jiva is higher energy than prakriti, then naturally the jiva is in prakriti, so he has a tendency to lord over. So it seems like an eternal connection. So hence, is this ever possible? Right? So Prabhupada makes the point that although one may understand that I am different from Prakriti, but because these two eternal potencies somehow have combined, it is so difficult to separate one from another. Therefore, how can the jiva be liberated? So Prabhupada explains that if you consider soul and the body, right? Soul is the jiva, body is the Prakriti, right? So now the point is, if the soul is separated from the body, then the body has no existence without the soul. Right? Now, if the body is separated from the soul, then one cannot even perceive the existence of soul. See, how can we perceive the soul is there? Because we are using this body to perceive the soul is there. Now, if you're using the body to perceive the soul is there, and all this analytical thing, research that we have, philosophical research, speculation we have done up to this point, we have used our mind. And mind is what? Is that a part of the soul? No, that's Prakriti. So you're using the mind to actually understand that I am not the mind. And it is so intricately engaged that will that separation ever be happen? Right? So that is her question. Okay. And further she continues, elaborates, 18.
Yatha gandhasya bhumishcha na bhavo vyatirekatah apam rasasya cha yatha tatha bude parasya cha.
Translation. As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness.
Right. So the point here, example, Shri, yatha, as, just like, Can anyone here take away heat from fire? No, we can. So here she's giving, can anyone take away aroma from the earth? No, they are all dependent. Both are dependent. Can anyone take taste from water? No. Right? So she's giving all these examples. Similarly, tatha buddhe parasya. How can one separate intelligence from consciousness? Because it is using one intelligence, one has understood all these aspects of Sankhya. So how can intelligence and consciousness ever be separated? Right? Isn't that a good question? Right? Because we're using our intelligence, like now we are studying Shastras. We're using our intelligence. But what do we want to do finally? We want to be give away the intelligence and be the pure spirit soul connected with Krishna. So if you're using the intelligence to actually progress in the path of bhakti, then how will that separation ever come up about? Further, 19.
अकर्तुर्कर्मबन्धोऽयं पुरुषस्य यदाश्रयः गुणेषु सत्तु प्रकृते कैवल्यं तेष्वत कथम्.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him? Hare Krishna.
So, see, although he's a karta, right? Is a jiva karta or akarta? Akarta. He is actually the non-doer. He is controlled by three modes of material nature. Now the point here is karma bandhana. Because the jiva has a tendency to work, right? Nahi kashat shanam api. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that you cannot stop working. So jiva has a tendency to be active, and the jiva is connected with what? Prakriti. So naturally, what will he do? He will act in Prakriti. And as soon as there is a desire to act in Prakriti, do fruitive activities, then what will happen? The three modes of material nature will bind the jiva to Prakriti. So it just seems like this separation is actually not possible. And that's her question, that how will this ever happen? How will this ever happen? Okay. So Prabhupada makes the point, although the jiva desires freedom from contamination of matter, he is not given release, right? Because the jiva, he has a tendency to work, and as he works, he's working with material nature. As soon as he works in nature, the modes actually affect him, and because of the influence of the modes, then he is actually entangled here. And Prabhupada quotes, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sahasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. It is falsely the jiva thinks, I am the enjoyer, I am the doer. Right? So, okay, therefore he has no opportunity to get out of the control of material nature. Right? Now, Prabhupada, because we see the mood of Prabhupada. Every purport, he wants it complete. So, though the question is that, Prabhupada actually gives the answer, and he quotes 7:14 Bhagavad Gita. What is that? 7:14.
दैवेश गुणमयी.
Yesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duratya, Mam Eva Ye Prapajante Maya Metantana. What is the solution? Can the Jiva on his own separate himself from Prakriti? No. Mam eva ye prapadante mayam etam tarantite. When the jiva takes shelter of Krishna, then Krishna frees the jiva from Prakriti. The jiva cannot do it on his own. So Devahuti's question is very intelligent, that how will the separation happen? Right? Up to this point. And Prabhupada is giving the answer that only Krishna can make the separation happen. Right? Prabhupada makes a point that one may speculate in many ways, and that I am separate from material nature. And after the speculation, Prabhupada says that they may speculate that I am free. But after speaking on all these Sankhya, oh, we are not this body, this is the material elements, after that, what will come? Oh, I'm feeling thirsty. I want to drink water. I mean, you're not this body. You just said you're not this body. Why are you drinking water? Or Prabhupada said they'll come and say, my throat is too dry. I have to smoke. It's like ridiculous. It's like, this Prabhupada is making a point that attachment is so strong. Just this philosophical speculation will not help us. Will not help us. One has to come to the point of taking shelter of Krishna. Okay. Next 20. 20 is also the verse in the question.
Vachit tatvavamarshena nivritam bhayam ulbanam anivrita nimittatvat puna pratyavatishtate.
Hare Krishna. Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again since its cause has not ceased.
So the point here is that devotee is saying Kvachit Tattva Avamarshena. That in certain case, by understanding these principles of Sankhya, right, that Tattva, if they understand, the fear of bondage can be avoided. Right? That fear that, oh, I am bound to this material nature. Maybe by understanding of Sankhya, he understands, okay, I am not this. Right? My false ego is clear. But because the cause of that attachment has not cleared out, and what is the cause of the attachment? That original tendency of the jiva to actually think that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Because that cause has not taken away, then even though philosophically he understands I am not this nature, then what happens? The same thing. Aruya Krishna Padam Padam Tata Parantiyada. That he'll actually fall back into this. Right? So that's the same point here. So she's making, because the cause has not ceased, then he may again come back. So where is that liberation? How is that liberation possible? Right? So Prabhupada makes the point. He quotes Bhagavad Gita 7:27. Ichha dvesha samutvena dvanda mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. Sarva bhutani sammoham. All the living entities are bewildered. Why? Because of this. The cause is what? Ichha and dvesha. What is ichha? That desire. Dvesha is envy. We want something, and after that, it's like, oh, this is horrible. I want something else. And we accept, we reject, we accept, we reject. Right? So Prabhupada said, Ichha is a desire to lord it over material nature. And then Dvesha is envy. Envy of why Krishna? I am Krishna. I am the supreme Param Brahman. I am that. Right? So that Ichha and Dvesha, right? That is the cause of our material. So in this entire analysis of Sankhya, where was the section where we talked about eliminating the cause? Was there a section? Actually, we are just analyzing the 24 elements. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. Oh, Paramatma is there. Yes, Paramatma is there, Paramatma is there. But where was the section where we are actually saying, oh, actually, I am not the master, I am actually a servant. That has not come anywhere. And hence, Devatee's question is so relevant because she's saying that the cause is not gone. And hence, even though one understands I'm not this body, I'm not 24 element, still causes not that, then again one will come back and again associate in Prakriti, and then where is the liberation? So it's amazing, like devotee, like we are trying to struggle and try to understand the Sankhya, but devotee is really understanding all these points to make such intelligent questions. Okay, so 4 verses of the question. Right, and Prabhupada, he actually makes a point. The difference between theoretical freedom and actual freedom. The theoretically, a Jnani may understand, I am not this body, I don't have connection with the modes, but it is different from actual freedom. One may, like even we may say, I am not this body. But do we realize we are not this body? No, there is a big difference between theoretical and so the Jnani may get theoretical understand, but to get actual knowledge, it's not easy. Right? So Prabhupada also quotes 10:14:4, right, which actually makes the point. This is Prayers of Brahma, and 14th chapter of 10th canto, where it says, Shreya Shritim Bhaktim Udasya Te Vibho क्लिश्यन्ति ये केवल बोध लभ्यते तेषाम असौ क्लेशला एव शिष्यते नान्यद यथा स्थूल स्तुष व कहितम. Basically, my dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path. If someone gives up this path and takes to speculative knowledge, he simply undergoes a troublesome process. Just like 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Klesho dhikarastesham avyakta sata. Klesha. If someone is attached to that impersonal, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. So here again 10:14:4, Brahma is making the point. If he gives up bhakti and takes to speculative process, simply a troublesome process. And he will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one simply cannot speculate. One who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Everyone following that? 10:14:4.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, can you explain the last line of that purport for text 20? There's a sentence called one has to nullify the cause and then the effect will be nullified. So we are saying the cause for the soul to be entered, going into a new or getting a new body, is that the cause?
Let me see. Text 20 purport. Last line you're saying. Where is it?
Right after it says husking the skin of an empty paddy.
Similarly, simply by speculative process, one cannot be freed from material bondage, but the cause still exists. One has to nullify the cause, and then the effect will be nullified.
So
So,
what is that cause that they taught is being
the
taught?
cause is, as I mentioned, the cause is what? Our
The
desire
desire.
to enjoy this material nature. A desire to be separate from Krishna. That is the root cause. So that's why I put this question that where in this entire process of Sankhya did we address the cause of the problem? Actually, we did not. Right? We did not. We did not come to the point that actually I am a servant of Krishna. Like that aspect did not come in this whole thing. And hence devotee's question is so relevant that the cause is still there. So I mean, like we are talking of the effect. We are trying to say, okay, the effect I want to clear, the cause is still there. So even though one may take away the effect, but because the cause is there, again the jiva may fall down and again get entangled. Right? Is that
So,
yeah?
so when we say that upon death, whatever one desires, the soul gets that body of choice, right? So that's one statement we say. But then also we say that based on voidism, we are saying that when there's voidism, there's no desire because the consciousness is not there, they say, right? So, which is when somebody attains nirvana. That was part of text 17, the last line of the purport. So if somebody has attained nirvana, what happens to the soul? Because there's no desire,
Okay. So
but they have not been in
yes.
bhakti.
So in 17 towards the end, what do they say? The voidists say that consciousness is a product of combination of matter, and that as soon as consciousness is gone, the material condition dissolves, and therefore there is ultimately nothing but voidness. This is the philosophy of Mayavadi.
Yeah.
So what is our philosophy? Our philosophy is that the desires can never be separated from the jiva. A jiva can never become desireless. Because jiva means what? Consciousness. Consciousness means desires. So voidists or Buddhists, they say the problem is desire. Hence, give up all desire. We say the problem is not desire. The problem is ignorance. Avidya. Avidya, because of ignorance, our desires are wrong or faulty desires. We have the desire to enjoy. But desires are never given up. What is in bhakti? What is our path? We are only trying to purify our desires. So desires cannot be separated from a jiva. That is the point. The Voidists and Mayavadi, they say, right? Like I made this point earlier that a person come to a Buddhist teacher and he says, like, I want happiness. And he says, first of all, you have three words, right? I want happiness. Right? You want happiness, right? Take away the I
and want.
want, right? Then there's only happiness. But that is not our understanding. I mean, if there is no I, where is the question of happiness? So I cannot be, that's our individuality. Our individuality, our consciousness, our desires can never be separated from who we are. Only thing that can be done is purified. Desires can be purified. That is the real understanding. So when we saying in this point that the cause is not cleared out in jnana, in bhakti, what do? We purify. We say that the cause of our fall down is that I turn away from Krishna. Now I'm turning back to Krishna. Then, if the cause is taken care of, then the effect will naturally be taken care of. Is that okay, Matan?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but there is some distinction, and I think it will take a little bit more time to clearly understand the difference between like voidness and then also path of bhakti, right? Both the soul is even in like path of voidness. I feel the desire totally doesn't ever go away, right? You're still in the mode of goodness
Yeah, so see,
because it cannot ever go away.
yeah, it cannot ever go away. So they want their path is that we'll become desireless. But actually, our point is the jiva can never become desireless. That is the biggest, like, the main distinction between like Voidism, Mayavad, and us. We say the individuality can never be given. You merge into Brahman, you're still individual. Green bird goes into a green tree, it is still a green bird. It is not that it's gone now. It ceases to exist. No, it is there. Individuality is there, consciousness is there, desire is there. That can never be made zero. That's our whole point. The only thing is the desires can be purified. The consciousness can be purified. The consciousness is polluted now, it can be purified.
So if we cannot do anything, we absolutely cannot do anything, then at least we have to strive to be in the mode of goodness. Would that be a right statement?
Now, why can't we do anything?
Like, let's say for any reason, right? We are not in the right association, or we are not. It could be right. Everybody's perception, or every people can be in the different levels. But ultimately, if somebody just is in the mode of goodness, their next life could be something better, right? They could be in the path of bhakti because, like, it will not go waste. It will not go waste. Is that understanding correct?
So, yes, mode of goodness is certainly better than mode of passion and ignorance. So, even practically, maybe when we are sharing Krishna consciousness, because a person may be too much in mode of ignorance and passion, we may teach him points about coming to a mode of goodness.
Mhm.
But we understand, but that itself is not sufficient.
Right.
Right? It is better, but it's not sufficient because finally the jiva has to come in contact with the devotee too, actually. So the whole section here is without bhakti, that liberation is not possible. We may bring them to a platform of goodness, but the goodness is a good platform for them to take a bhakti. But if they are just in the mode of goodness, then what happens? Yes, they'll have a better life, they may get better birth, but again, that cycle will keep continuing. So our point is, mode of goodness is good. It's a good platform, but it's not sufficient. It has to come somehow or other. The jiva has to come in contact with devotee, and maybe mode of goodness. Maybe there's a higher chance he may come in contact with the devotee. So maybe it's favorable in that way. Hmm.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah.
So. Okay, so this was a verse, a very nice verse, 10:14:4 that we are discussing. Brahma's prayers, where he's actually making the point that devotion service is the best part. If someone actually goes through this process, what we are discussing here, speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and he will not achieve the desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Nice purport here. You can read this. Like Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, loving service to the Supreme Person is the natural and eternal function of every living entity. Such a nice statement that loving service to Krishna is a natural and eternal function of everyone. So unless one comes to a point, right? Prabhupada continues, if a person renounces his own constitutional function and instead laboriously seeks so-called enlightenment through impersonal speculation, his result is simply trouble and bother that come from following an artificial process. Okay. And it's a nice verse. So let's share 10:14:4. Okay, so let's see what is the solution, right? I mean, we had 4 verses, which is just a question. So if you say that, oh, the jiva, how is it possible? Is liberation? Everyone appreciates the question of devotee. Yes. Then how is this even possible? That separation. Now let's see what is the answer. 21.
I was thinking it was like, you know how modern doctors are more like, okay, just take care of the symptoms and then not going to the root cause. So Devotee is asking like, oh, unless we address that, then the symptoms will keep coming up, right? It's a good question.
And good example, actually. Yeah. I mean, like Prabhupada also makes a point that, we may have boils on our skin, right? And then we may say, okay, let me apply some ointment to treat the boil. And you may do that. But if the blood itself is impure, then somewhere else is going to come. Right? So Prabhupada gives this example actually. So what is the point? You have to purify the blood. You have to purify the desire. That's the main thing. Okay, 21. Bhagavan Vacha.
Next 21. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Animita Nimitena Swadharmena Malatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktyacha Shruta Sambritaya Chiram. Oh, it's me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter.
Right. So here is a solution. How can the jiva get liberated? First, he starts with animita nimitena. So previously, what was devotee's question? That the jiva has the tendency to work, and because it is working in material nature, the modes will act upon him, right? So that was her question. Then how is the separation possible? So here it starts off by animita nimitena, without desiring the fruits of activities. So when we are working in this world, if we do not desire the fruit of activity, then further, swadharmena, you do your duties. Like Arjun, he was fighting. Was he interacting with the material elements? Yes or no? Yes, he was interacting. He was using all the astra, bow and arrow, shooting people. He's doing all that, but without desiring the fruit of activity. And further, amala atmana, one with a pure mind, he should do tivra mai bhaktya. Very clearly, the word is given bhaktya. Only by devotional service one can actually be free, right? And what kind of devotional service? Tivra. Tivra means serious devotional service. And what is the main aspect of devotional service? Shruta Chiram. You have to hear for a long time. Vaisheshekar Prabhu often quotes this verse and he says, this is how our hearing should be. You have to hear for a long time. It's not like, okay, every day we just heard little bit and ho gaya. As much as possible, you have to hear Harikatha. Keep hearing, keep hearing, keep hearing. Because that hearing process is going to purify the cause that we are talking about. It is that hearing. And what is the proof of this? That hearing will take off the cause. Which shloka is the proof?
Srinvatam Svakatha Krishna.
Shrutam Svakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantusa Abhadrani, Vidunoti Srutana. Krishna in our heart will take away that cause. We have to keep hearing. So Prabhupada gives a very nice example in the purport. He says, okay, association with material nature alone does not mean one is conditioned. Example, one may go to a police station. Does that mean that the person is a criminal? No, right? He may just go and he's like he may file a complaint, but that does not make him a criminal. He's coming in contact with the police department, but he's not a criminal. Right? So similarly, we may come in contact with material nature, but because the tendency to enjoy the fruitive activities, that cause is taken away. And that will happen when we hear about Krishna for a long time. Then even though he is in this material nature, the cause is not there. So even though he is surrounded by 24 elements, he is actually already liberated. Everyone can appreciate the point. Tivra Bhakti. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he makes a point that the Tivra actually means what? It has to be spontaneous devotional service. That means he's telling that one should come to the stage of Raganuga Bhakti. When one comes to Raganuga Bhakti, then one is actually already free. And spontaneously one is attracted to Krishna. Right? Sadhana Bhakti is the beginning steps. But if sadhana bhakti itself will not taking us there. We have to go to the next spontaneity, and that's where this liberation can be achieved. Okay. Prabhupada says even the Supreme Personality, when Krishna descends into this material world, is he in contact with Prakriti? I mean, he has his chariot, right? His chariot, he's walking on the ground. He's also, let's say, drinking water. He's also eating fruits. He's in coming contact with Prakriti, right? Yes or no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes?
Looks like.
Yes or no? Actually, no.
Prakriti is his own nature. How can we separate sunshine from sun?
Yeah,
So
that is true. That is the energy of the Lord. But actually, when the Lord comes, he comes in contact, it is actually spiritual. See the point we have made already, we have made a few times earlier, that is this material or spiritual?
Material.
Used in
Where you
space.
use it from.
As soon as we use it in Krishna service, it's no longer material. Right? And Prabhupada gives the example of microphone. Saying we are using this microphone to speak Hari Katha, and because it is used in Krishna service, it is actually not material anymore. It is spiritualized. So imagine when Krishna descends, everything Krishna comes in contact is spiritual. There is no longer material. When you go to the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, what was the point that was made? When we see anything separate from Krishna, that is material. Because from Krishna's point of view, everything is energies. Right? When we see anything, oh, this is separate from Krishna, that is Maya. Otherwise, it's all Krishna. So how can it's a proper making the point that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he appears, supposed to be in association with material nature when he defends, but he's not affected. He's not, So one has to act in such a way. In spite of being in the material nature, one should not be affected by contamination. And Prabhupada gives the example from Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, text number 10. Krishna tells what? What is 5:10 example? Just like a lotus grows in muddy water, but still the lotus, is he ever touched by the muddy water? No. Even water falls on it, it's just like it's separate. It never wets the lotus, right? So similarly, we have to be here in this world, but yet be not of this world. Okay. Right. So Prabhupada makes the point, liberation by seriously engaging in devotional service. How devotional service develops and becomes mature. Beginning, we actually perform our prescribed duties, but we do it with a purified mind, right? Amala Atmana, right? And that mind is Krishna conscious mind. When we are doing our activities with Ata Pumbir Dvija Sheshta Varnashrama Vibhagasa Swanistasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshana. So when you're doing our activities of this world, but with the intention to give pleasure to Krishna, then those activities are actually spiritualized. So no longer, though we are doing our activities, it may appear externally that a devotee is in coming contact with matter, but actually he is not in contact with matter. So Prabhupada says, professional devotional duty. Professional devotional duty. Nice phrase to think about. So what is your, we don't ask what is your profession. For devotee, they have to ask, what is your professional devotional duty? Because anything we are doing it in connection to Krishna. That's a nice professional devotion. And Prabhupada quotes Yagyartha karma no anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. If work is not done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, then the work causes bondage. Otherwise, that work itself causes liberation. Right? So it's a very nice point. Work itself, our interaction with the material nature, is a cause of our liberation. Okay. Everyone, good? You can appreciate this point. Right? So what we have to do?
Tivrena Bhakti Yoga and Shut Samritya Chiram.
Chiram. Yes, Chiram. Right? Shruta Samvrittaya Chiram. You have to hear for a very long time. Let me think. Keep hearing, Hari Krishna, keep hearing. And that will destroy the cause. And the cause is destroyed, then you're already liberated. 22.
ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन वैराग्येन बलीयसा तपोयुक्तेन योगेन तीव्रेणात्मसमाधिना.
Hare Krishna, 327.22. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. Hare Krishna.
So it's interesting when we see these verses. Is this pure devotional service? Like if you see this verse, it says one should do these activities jnanena drishta tatvena. So that we can accept. Drishta tatvena means we want to change our vision with the vision of the absolute truth. Vairagyena with renunciation. And baliyasa, very strong renunciation. Tapa yuktena, we have to engage in austerity, okay? But then he says yogena, by mystic yoga. Do we do mystic yoga? No, we are not doing. So if you see that, in this section of Kapil Dev, we are reading of devotional service with jnana, devotional service with mystic yoga. And next, so this last chapter and this chapter is all devotional service with jnana, right? Sankhya. Now, next chapter will be what? Devotional service with mystic yoga. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Kapila Dev will talk about all those aspects. Right? So he's actually giving both. So three are Adhyatma Yoga, pure devotion service, and which was that chapter? Satam Prasanga Mama Virya Samido Bhavanti Rit Karnataka. That's pure. Then he talked of Sankhya, and now next chapter will be Mystic Yoga. So here is saying, so he's already one way this word Mystic Yoga is leading, will lead on to the next chapter. So one should be firmly fixed in Mystic Yoga, and then for mystic yoga, in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption, Atma Samadhina. Then Prabhupada starts, he says, devotion service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material emotion or mental concoction. And Prabhupada's statements are so powerful. Just that one sentence. What does Prabhupada say? Devotion service cannot be performed blindly. If you're doing it blindly, then it's not bhakti. Because in bhakti, what are we doing? Our intention we are purifying. So that intention of I'm doing this for the pleasure of Krishna. Samsiddhir Haritosana. Why am I chanting Hare Krishna in the morning? Well, my Guru Maharaj asked me to do it. I mean, that is okay. That's a matter of duty. But beyond that, we are doing it to give pleasure to our Guru and to Radha and Krishna. We are actually bringing Radha and Krishna together through our chanting. So that intention should be there. So hence Prabhupada said, devotion service cannot be performed blindly due to material, emotional, or mental conflict. It is specifically mentioned here, one has to perform devotional service in full knowledge, understanding who we are, who Krishna is, what is our intention, what is anyabhilasita sunyam, etc., etc. Okay. Then also Prabhupada says, what is austerity for us, devotees? What is austerities for us? Is there austerity for devotees? When we come to Sunday feast, we get such nice prasada. Every time there's a big feast and different varieties. And what is austerity for devotees?
To still enjoy all the devotional benefits, but not have a hankering or desire. I think that's the biggest austerity
Okay,
in my mind.
that's a good point. That yes, we are getting all these, like we are chanting, we are dancing, we are actually. So your point is we are not.
Though we are for doing all this devotional activities, and we are getting reaping the benefits, but we are not desiring
We're
or
not
hankering for that benefit, right? We are doing it out of
right.
either out of duty or out of liking, but we are not saying, "Oh, I've gone to the temple, so I have to have prasadam."
Yes.
That is not. I'm gone to the temple. Okay, if I get prasadam, great. If I don't, that is also right. That's the biggest austerity, not having the desire.
So not like not to have the desire to enjoy the
Enjoy
benefits of
the
the.
benefit.
So here Prabhupada actually makes a point. What is the austerity for us? Fast on Ekadashi, right? And he makes a point. Then fast on Ekadashi on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Ram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So there's so many fasting days. So you should fast on all these days. And then he says, yeah, that's it. In Yogena, controlling sense of mind, faith. Yeah. I mean, for us, actually, our biggest austerity for many of us is what? Getting up early in the morning.
In the morning.
That's the austerity, right? That's the austerity, just getting up. But recently I was talking to another devotee, and we were saying that if you just see the austerities that Prabhupada disciples have gone through, compared to that, our life is like heaven. Imagine during those days, 70s, during Prabhupada's time, they used to live in like vans, and travel from one place to another, distribute books. Like they're living in vans. Vans is their house. They don't have a house. Mhm. And Prabhupada said, okay, go to Europe, go preach. You three couples, you go. I mean, they didn't have money. It's like they have received the order and it's like, okay, Prabhupada will go, but we have to book our own air tickets. Like, who would give money for that? It's not like that. You figure it out, you do it. Prabhupada is just empowering. And even it is said that when they came to Europe to enter UK, London, to enter the country, they actually had to show that they have certain finances. And the three couples together, they did not have enough finance. So what did they do? One couple, they went in and showed we have so much finance. They went inside and they shipped that, I mean, they again wired that money back to the other couples so that when they come in, they can show that they have the finance. And basically, they had no money. And what did they do? Started this, empowered by Srila Prabhupada, started, met George Harrison, started this entire preaching in UK. And then, New Vrindavan, you hear so many stories like, okay, go take shower. What? Take shower? Yeah, there is a river outside. It is frozen, but you can break it and just take shower. I mean, that's what people used to do. Like so many stories, like New Vrindavan. Like imagine, like they used to go break the ice and then shower with that. I mean, what austerities they have done. Compared to that, we are nothing. We are not doing anything compared to that. Getting up at 2 in the morning, doing the Mangalarti, chanting their rounds, and then going out, spending 10 hours outside on Sankirtan, book distribution, cold, hot, it doesn't matter. Going out 10 hours, Sankirtan. Coming back, again, evening Arti, having little prasadam, take little rest, again get up, continue. Like, and they lived this life for years and years and years. How much austerity they have done. We are nothing compared to that. not even like a drop of the austerity. So, I mean, we should think about this, and it really develops our appreciation for Srila Prabhupada disciples, like what they have sacrificed, and we are actually reaping the benefits of their austerities, of their sacrifice. That now everything is ready-made. Here Maharaj, he did so much austerity, develop new Goloka Dham, and now we come, yeah, Dham is there. We are reaping the benefits. So how much we should have that mood of appreciation for these Prabhupada disciples, how much they have done. So, and at this point, a little bit side, but this point of austerity just made me share this point. Okay. So this verse has talked about renunciation, having the right vision, then austerity, and then it also talked of yoga. And by that yoga, one can be fixed in self-absorption. Okay, next, text 23.
Prakriti purushasyeha dhyamana tvaharnisham tiro bhavitri shanakair agneryonir ivarani.
Hare Krishna. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so here, okay, so here, what is so he's making the result. What is the question we are answering now? Then how will the jiva ever get liberated? Because here in this body, we are using this body to understand that we are spirit soul. We're using this body to engage in devotional service. So we are using this body, which is actually material element, and we want to get free. How will it happen? So 21 and 22 is the solution. Now 23 is showing the result of it. So now if you consider wood, right? When wood is actually rubbed against each other, then what happens? Fire is generated, and by the fire, what happens? The wood itself gets burned. So fire, which is actually stored in the wood, becomes the cause of the destruction of the wood. That means what? How is this practical for us? That bhakti which is in our heart, when that bhakti is actually awakened, then that bhakti itself burns away what? These mind, the senses, the intelligence, what we talked about, all that is actually burned. Right? So hence the point that material mind, I should say material mind, is all burned. Like from Bhagavad Gita, we know like how Krishna points out where is lust stored, and he said lust is stored in mind, intelligence, senses, etc. So all that places where lust is stored, the desire to enjoy, that is destroyed, that is consumed by that bhakti, which was actually stored in the spirit soul one day. So the influence of material nature on jiva, as if the jiva is being consumed by the blazing fire, just like the wood example. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport makes the point that living entity's conditioned life of material existence is due to what is the main disease, why we are here in this material world. One is our desire to lord it over material nature. Second is envy. So Ichcha and Dvesha. So again, Prabhupada is making a reference to that Ichcha and Dvesha. Ichcha and Dvesha. Right? So what is the mood of karmis? The karmis, they utilize the resources of material nature to lord it over and enjoy sense gratification. So yes, karmis are using these elements, material nature, to enjoy. Jnanis, they are frustrated. They don't want to interact with material elements, and hence they want to become one with the Supreme or merge with impersonal effulgence. But what is it for devotion? So Prabhupada makes the point. Right? These two diseases are due to material contamination. Material contamination can be consumed by devotional service because in devotional service, these two desires, right, are absent. So one is the karmis are utilizing the resources to enjoy. In devotional service, what is that? We're utilizing the resources, yes, but the spirit of enjoyment is gone. Right? The second point, the jnanis, they are frustrated in enjoyment and they want to become one with the Lord. But in bhakti, what is it? That envy of the Lord is taken away. So the two diseases of the Icha and Dvesha, as soon as we come to Bhakti, when we say Jivera Surup Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das, that means what? Our position is that servant of Krishna. That means we are not separate enjoyers. And that also takes away the point of we are not envious of Krishna. So both the root causes of our existence here, immediately in Bhakti, they are actually taken away. Right? So right. And then Prabhupada makes the point that externally a devotee may appear that yes, to be like a karmi. He is engaging, like Arjuna is fighting the battle, Duryodhana is fighting. One may say, what is the difference? Both of them are doing the best of their ability. Duryodhana is entangled in material nature. Isn't Arjun also entangled? If he's not entangled, why is he fighting? Externally, it appears that a karmi and a devotee, they are actually doing the same thing. But there is an entire whole spectrum of difference between a karmi and a devotee, right? A devotee doctor may appear like doing a surgery just like a karmi doctor. Someone may externally see and say they're doing the same thing. But there is vast. One is entangled by the modes, and other is actually free from all the modes. What is that? Divinity and Mata, your comment?
Prabhu, you said like, Jivara Swarupa Krishna Nityadas, that underlines all the principles of this confusion. One simple statement in Bengali. So he is the profound teacher.
Yeah. I mean, this one sentence is actually, destroying all the other philosophies and is actually destroying this root cause, what we are talking about, that cause. So everything that we studied in the Sankhya, if you come, it's all to come to this point of finally saying that Jivara Swarupa Krishna Nityananda. That also you can go through the whole process and not come to the point. But in Bhakti, that's why in Bhakti, last time also we mentioned the point, we are so fortunate that we are already getting the result of what someone may get after going through the whole process of Sankhya. Right? So how fortunate we are. And that's why, Bhagavatam makes the point, Tulyavam lave napi. Right? It says like you cannot, like you may put all the other processes on one side and you take a balance, like a weighing scale. And here, a drop of association with devotee. And here you have all the other shastras, all other processes. Still no comparison. Because all the other processes, like what we are getting, that is not even comparison. That does not stand any value in front of one moment of association with the devotee. Because immediately you associate and you say, oh, our position is that of Jivar Swarupa Krishna and Nityadas. Immediately that whole thing is actually taken care of. Okay. Now, text number 24.
Bhogha parityakta drishtadosha cha nityashaha neshvarasya shubham dhate sve mahimni stitasya cha.
Hare Krishna. By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory.
So, Swe Mahimni, the Jiva stands in his own glory. What does this mean? Jiva stands in his own glory. That basically Bhukta Bhoga Paryatyakta. So, because he's given up the desire to enjoy, Bhukta, to enjoy this material nature, then what happens? Na Ashubham Dhate. right? Na ashubham date. That means, na ashubham date. That means she inflicts no harm on jiva, prakriti. So even though the jiva is in prakriti, the jiva is not affected by prakriti, right? Because he has given up the desire to lord over prakriti, the tendency to enjoy material nature is taken away, and drishta dosha. So he discovering the faultiness, the like it's almost like what's a good example? Right, how Prabhupada gives this example that a person may be in a prison house, but that does not mean he's a criminal. He may be someone who is like a guardian or supervisor. So though he is in prison, but he's not affected by the laws of the prison. Right? So similarly, though a jiva now is in material nature, he is actually Ishwarasya. He is independent. He is Swayam Mahimni. He stands in his own glory because he is independent of the nature of Prakriti. And Prabhupada, one example that, yeah. And Prabhupada says, Jiva, not actually the enjoyer of material resources, his attempt to lord it over will be frustrated. Frustration desires more power, therefore wants to merge and become supreme enjoyer. So, Prabhupada is again and again making the point of how jnanis, they see this whole thing and how a devotee, when he is actually free, then he's not affected by Prakriti. Prabhupada makes the point in purport. To be servant of the Lord is the greatest position. Thus, if one understands this and revives original nature of eternal servitorship, then one stands fully independent. Right? So, like we were discussing this point recently, that one may say, like, your life, you may say a life of a devotee means so many rules and regulations. Where is the question of independence? Right? Like they may say, like, okay, let's go out and eat, and you'll be like, oh, actually, I don't eat outside. What? So many rules and regulations. We'll arrange vegan food for you. No, no, I still don't eat outside. And it's like, what? Why are you living this life? All these rules and regulations. Where is your independence? And what is our answer to that? What's our answer?
Independence is dependent, being dependent on Krishna.
Okay, but how will you answer them? They will be like, what? Dependent on Krishna.
You actually get freedom from following the principles because you're actually bound when you do these things, that you actually get bound more than if you avoid them. Regulated principles of freedom.
Yeah, regulated principles of freedom. Yeah. See, actually, the point is we actually challenge them. Where is your independence? You're saying that I don't have independence because I'm following all these rules. Our question is, where is your independence? Now, why? Let's say, like, I'm independent. No, you're not independent. You are dependent on the pullings of your senses. Your senses say do this, you're doing that. Senses says do this, you're doing that. Where is your independence? There is no independence. Actually, you are just controlled, just like how the three modes of material nature act upon you. You are just controlled. You're just acting like a robot with no say in this world, right? But the real independence comes when we are actually covering ourselves or protecting ourselves from these pullings of the senses, and then we are really independent to do what we want to do. I mean, you can challenge them and say, like, okay, you want to do, let's say you want to sit and study, but immediately what happens? You want to focus and you're distracted. All right, you're pulled by your senses, by your mind. That means what? You're not independent. If you're independent, if you will be able to do what you want to do. Right? So that independence. So Prabhupada says, if one understands this and revives his original nature of eternal servitorship, that I am a servant of Krishna, then he is fully independent. Right? Okay, therefore, he's not dependent on the modes. Therefore, he gives up tendency for material enjoyment. Okay, so Prabhupada says, what is actual independence? transcendental pleasure derived from loving service to the Lord is actual independence. So, how Mataji said, a real independence is what? Dependence on Krishna, right? So, Prabhupada is giving another point. Transcendental pleasure derived from our relationship, our loving service to the Lord, that is actually real independence. Okay. Okay, so we have 5 more verses, but let's take a break. Before that, let's see if anyone has any comments or any points that you liked in today's discussion. We'll take a 5 minutes break and then come back. Any points from today's discussion anyone like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking that if we think about the austerities performed by Prabhupada disciples, we are just living a luxurious life.
That's a really nice point. I mean, really, our appreciation for Prabhupada disciples will really grow when we actually think about what they have done for us.
Krishna Prabhu, my Gurmaj actually sometimes mentioned this, that Prabhupada has said, Prabhupada not really said, but it is like his analogy, that Mahaprabhu has put the trees of mangoes around, and then Prabhupada has picked up the mangoes, cut it, peeled it up, make it small pieces, put it in the individual plates, everything just kept in front of us. We just have to put the fork and put it in the mouth. That's it. All the other efforts are done by Prabhupada and his followers. So,
Any other points from today's discussion? Yeah.
In text 21, Lord says that is like the main thing is like the Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. So whatever we are doing, so it's like 100% mind should be there, and the word Prabhupada said like professional devotional. So like each and every step, whatever we are doing, so like in center in the Lord Krishna, and 100% we have to put our mind over there. Not only our body is there, but the mind should be there. Tivrena Bhakti Yoga, and I like that one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And everyone appreciates the point about what was Devothi's question, right? What was the question?
How to separate the soul
And
from
is
material.
that even possible to separate the Jiva from Prakriti? Because they're so entangled together. Both of them are eternal Shaktis of the Lord. They're so much together. How is it ever possible? So, up to this point of following Sankhya, is it possible? No. Finally, that aspect of bhakti has to come, and
Yes.
only by bhakti, Krishna will actually make the separation. Otherwise, it will not happen. And the point we read just now is what? Just like wood has fire, but the fire burns the wood, right? So,
Yeah.
is there,
Yes.
and by that bhakti, that covering will actually be cut away. Our attachment to the modes will cut away. The cause is actually getting destroyed.
so Prabhu, you mean to say that the bhakti is because it is eternally present in the jiva, just like how fire is eternally present in the wood, right?
Yeah.
That's how, if we, okay, then it will burn off all our interaction with the material nature, and
The material subtle body is actually no longer there. Like the bhakti will burn that away. Like the same Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabana. It is there in everyone's heart. But when it is, the spiritual master can awaken it. And when it awakens, then we are actually burning away all those coverings.
And that will be possible if we hear about Krishna for chiram, long time.
Long time. Yeah, hearing for a very long time. So Vaishnav Prabhu often quotes this verse that how much we have to hear? To hear for a long time. Keep hearing, keep hearing, keep hearing. That's our only way. That's how. So our hearing is proportionate. The more we hear Krishna Katha, the more we are actually taking away that cause. We are addressing the cause, and that enjoying propensity is actually being cleared out.
Hearing attentively. Right?
Yeah, hearing.
Yeah, hearing and repeating.
Yes. Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes break. We'll come back 8:45 and we'll continue. Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishnaya Shri Sarvare Shri Krishna Murari Ramani Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Mama Mana Mande Raha Nishede Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Mama Mana Mandire Raha Nishede Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Bhakti Priti Mala Chanda Bhakti Priti Mala Chanda Bhakti Priti Mala Chanda Bhakti Priti Every day, Niyo Niyo Chitananda Tumi Niyo Niyo Chitananda Jivana Mara Pujani Veda Jivana Jivana Marana Sava Pujani Veda Pujani Veda Jivana Pujani Veda Jivana Pujani Veda Jivana Pujani Veda Sundara He Mana Mana Nanda Kumar Yashodananda Nanda Kumar Yashodananda Nanda Kumar Yashodananda
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so everyone please come back. Let's continue. Text number 25. So what are we reading in this section? So we talked about how Kapila Dev has explained that only through intense bhakti, hearing for a long time, can the soul actually be separated from Prakriti. And after making that point, then Kapila Dev has actually said that how just like by bhakti, just like how in wood there is fire, and by the fire the wood itself is burned. Similarly, the devotion in the heart of every living entity that will burn away all these subtle coverings. Right, all the mind, intelligence, all that attachment is actually all burnt away. Now, having made the point, now in 24, 25, and 26, he's actually making the point that how Prakriti, though the Jiva is in Prakriti, the Prakriti will not affect the Jiva. Right? We are in this world, but how the material world will not affect us. How the lotus is in muddy water, but the lotus is not affected by the muddy water. How does that happen? So here, 3 verses. So 24 actually made the point where by understanding the faultiness, so Jiva understands that the fault was I was desiring to lord it over material nature. Therefore, it gives it up, and then the living entity becomes Swa Mahimni. He stands in his own glory and he becomes independent. So real independence is actually here. Because though he is in Prakriti, he is actually not affected by Prakriti. Okay. Now 25 and 26 continue. He makes the point how the Jiva is not affected by Prakriti. 25.
Text 25. Yataya pratibudhasya prasvapo bhavanartabhrit saevra pratibudhasya navai mohaya kalpate.
In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things. But when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot be.
Okay. So basically, what is the point here? He's saying yatha. Whenever we see yatha or eva, now we know. That means example, right? So example is given what? Yatha hi aprati buddhasya. Aprati buddhasya means one who is actually sleeping. So when a person is sleeping, he may have so many dreams, and in that dreams he may see, oh, snake is coming to bite him, or a tiger is chasing him, or he's lost all his money, or so and so. All those things are there in his dream. But as soon as a person wakes up, then what? All those things which were actually inauspicious, like, oh, that was just a dream. Similarly, now at this point, the Jiva comes and it's almost like he wakes up. Jeev jago, Gaura Chandra bole, Kota Nidra jao Maya Pichajir. Kota Nidra, how long will you sleep in the lap of this witch called Maya? That's a bhajan. But what is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu going around and saying? Jeev jago. So basically, this verse is making the point that when we come to Prati Buddhasya, when one is awake, then what? Then none of these things bewilder him. So similarly, when the jiva is awake, then even though the modes of Prakriti are there, they do not affect him. They do not affect him. Right? He becomes a witness to everything, and these modes do not affect him. Wouldn't it be nice to have that position where we are in this material world, but we are not affected by the modes? Like Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter, what does Krishna say? Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevata sa gunan samiteta and brahma bhuyaya kalpate. He is actually free from the influence of 3 modes of material nature. Right? And it's just like this is a very nice example of dreaming, and then you awaken, and all the dream state is all gone. Right. So Prabhupada makes the point. What is real awakening? Real awakening means to see everything, that everything is actually meant for the enjoyment of Krishna. That is real awakening. Right? When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually coming and saying, Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra bole, Kota Nitra Jao Maya, Pichari Kole. Then what's the next line? Enesi Oshidhi Maya. Right? So I brought the medicine, and then what is the medicine? That by that medicine we are realizing that Bhoktaram Yagitapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram. He is the real enjoyer. I'm not the enjoyer. He's the enjoyer. Hence, my duty is to actually assist Radha and Krishna in their enjoyment. That is real awakening, right? So, and then also, yeah. So hence, Prabhupada says, if you really want to benefit anyone, what should we do? We should go and wake them.
Preach. Yeah.
To go and wake them up. So how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going around and saying, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. We go to every door, we knock on the door, and many times they are actually like, especially we go Saturday afternoon, they come out and they are like half asleep, and they are like, they are hard to open their eyes, and then we'll say, here, books on yoga and meditation, wake up. Right? That's what we have to do. We have to wake them up. So that's what Prabhupada says. You really want to benefit people? Wake them up. Wake them up. Right? So then they realize, oh, what all was happening was just a dream. The reality is Krishna. Reality is my service to Krishna. Reality is my devotion to Krishna. That is real. The holy name is real. Everything else is Maya. Okay, so wake everyone up. So we all have to become alarms. And I just made that up. But it's nice, we can think about that we have to become alarms for other people. Everyone is sleeping, we need to go and start the alarm. Say, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Okay, 26.
Evam vidita tatvasya prakritirmai manasam yunjato napakuruta atma ramasya karhichit.
The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of God.
So when we see verses starting with yatha or eva, we know that's an example. When you see verses starting with evam, that means what? Thus. It's a conclusion. So basically last two verses has said that how the prakriti cannot affect the jiva, like how the dreams cannot affect the person who's awake. Then here it is saying, thus the person is not affected by prakriti. So prakriti na apa krute. Prakriti cannot do any harm to the jiva. Why? And then here, vidita tattvasya. He knows. Vidita means to know. He knows what? Tattva. And what's the tattva he knows? Vadniti tat tattvavidas tattvam yadkyayam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdade. But anyway, at this point, he at least knows. Here, he's saying mai manasam. So vidita tattva, he knows the absolute truth, and his mind is actually fixed on Krishna. And then further he says Atma Ramasya Karichit. So very nice. Atma Ramasya Karichit means he finds satisfaction in the self. And because he finds satisfaction within, he's not looking for satisfaction outside. So hence the most do not have it. So the tendency to enjoy material nature is no longer there. Why? Because he is santushta. In Bhagavad Gita, when Arjun asked Krishna, what is the symptoms of a spiritual person? Second chapter. What is the first answer that Krishna gives? Well, how do you reckon?
Tushta.
Tushtaha. Tushtaha means he's satisfied with it. That is a sign of a spiritual person. He's satisfied. So here it actually made the point that enjoying tendency outside is no longer there. We are not looking for Amazon.com to find happiness because we know it is right here. We are satisfied with it. right? So hence this verse is saying, therefore, because that person knows Krishna, his mind is fixed on Krishna, he's finding satisfaction within, material nature can do no harm to that jiva. Right? So Prabhupada says Atmaram or Vidita Tattva means a devotee whose mind is always fixed on the lotus feet of Supreme Person. Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Ma Namaskuru. So the mind of the jiva is fixed on Krishna. Right? And then here Prabhupada makes a very nice point. How does a devotee find satisfaction? For a devotee, what does it mean satisfaction within?
Service to the devotees.
Okay. And service to the devotees. Okay, continue. How is the satisfaction within? Okay, the tendency of the jiva is to get happy, right? The nature of jiva is, and because the tendency is there, we made the point because he's in Prakriti, material nature, he tries to find happiness in Prakriti. But now we are making that Prakriti will not affect because happiness is inside. So how does the jiva get happiness? Yes, service, but so Prabhupada makes a point. The reciprocation of service and benediction. Such a nice point. So so you made a point. Okay, we are serving Vaishnavas, we are doing devotional service. How is that satisfaction coming? Because Krishna is being pleased by our service and he blesses us from within. He gives us realizations from within. He will give us that happiness from within. And when we are getting the happiness within, then we are santushta. So for a devotee, that happiness is reciprocation of service and benediction. Krishna will give benediction, devotee wants to serve. And then again benediction, service, benediction. Right? And then what is for a devotee? How much of a devotee serves, he'll say like, oh, I have not served Krishna at all. And your devotee wants to serve more and more and more. And then Krishna will be what? Oh, he's doing so much service. I want to give more and more and more. So there's unlimited competition on both sides. Devotee wants to serve more, Krishna wants to give more respect. And that way, the joy in the heart keeps increasing. And because of that, certainly there is no effect of Prakriti. No longer the jiva has any taste that, oh, maybe I should do this material thing to get happiness. There's no longer that thing. And at some point in our bhakti, we come to the realization that, oh, so long, so many lifetimes, I was just living on that lie that happiness is in material nature. But now I'm convinced that material nature cannot give me happiness. There is no happiness there. Happiness is in service and reciprocation from Krishna. So it's a nice point to meditate that when we do seva, Krishna is reciprocating. And that, and I was just hearing in Prabhupada's class, he was making the point that how a devotee, just wants to do humble service, right? In humility, and just wants to come, serve, be like salt, not like turmeric. Turmeric is not there. Immediately you can see sabji, you'll say like, oh, so turmeric is missing. But salt, like no one talks about salt. If it is there in good amount, you'll say, okay, good sabji. No one praises the salt. So you have to be the salt. So devotee wants to be a salt, and in that mood of salt, he's like doing humble service. But because he's doing the humble service and Krishna is so pleased, then Krishna will make the devotee famous. Like Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was just doing humble service, but now everyone knows Prabhupada. Right? So Krishna gives that fame. That reciprocation is there. Right?
But Prabhu, what if really Krishna does not reciprocate? How do we, like sometimes, I mean, reciprocation is there, but we don't really realize that reciprocation, and then still the devotee is still performing his devotional services still. How we have see the life of Pandavas, right? Sometimes here and there Krishna used to come, but like long years of
Yeah.
keeping, it's like,
So point is, one, you already mentioned the point. That many times the reciprocation is there, but we are not even noticing it.
mm,
You know? Like Krishna is reciprocating. He is seeing every little service we are doing, he's seeing. He is noting for sure. Right? Even little bit small service, someone comes and just opens a door for a devotee, Krishna has noted that. Oh, he did that seva. So Krishna is always seeing. And one thing is, he may reciprocate and we may not notice it. And we're like, oh, we didn't notice because we were not introspective. We were not actually pausing and seeing, like, oh, how did Krishna respond? That is one. Second is, Krishna may hold to reciprocate. And we see
Mm.
that. Why? To intensify that mood of a devotee, where the devotee will be like, Krishna, I'm doing this for you. Where are you? And Krishna will say, okay, I'm going to wait a little more. Let it become more intensified, more stronger, more stronger. And finally, the devotee says, Krishna, where are you? I cannot continue. Then okay, here, take a little taste. So Krishna is so expert that he will actually give the reciprocation. He is, I just read recently that it's not that Krishna is holding back the blessing. It may seem that Krishna is holding back the benediction, what we are talking about here, but actually, he is preparing us for a bigger benediction. And that's why he may not give it right now because he's preparing us for something more bigger. And that may be our intensity of bhakti in devotion. So he's giving us, but he's actually waiting so that he can give us much more bigger than what he can give right now.
Mm. So, like, even if we don't really get it at this point, we should be positive that something is coming.
Yeah, something big is coming. The more Krishna is waiting to give, the more bigger the result will come. Right? So that hope is there. And we know that Krishna is the best teacher, he's our best friend, and he knows what is the best thing for us. So at the right time, Krishna will actually give us.
So I get to always see this question coming up during all my years that, while chanting, I'm not getting the taste, but I'm still chanting. So eventually, the people tendency is to like, what's happening, nothing is happening. We don't really realize that is just anything happening. Like I'm not able to like, as I posted on Bhagavatam, after such a long reading, I said, you have to be Paramhamsa to read Srimad Bhagavatam. You get like a stop that should I really do this? So at this point, what should be a devotee, do? But there's a long time of no reciprocation from Krishna. Say like chanting no taste. I'm just doing 16. When the 16 is over, it's big relief. But that is not the point, right? Even if there is no reciprocation, I should be very enthusiastic to perform my devotional service.
Yes. Yes. So see, first point is like, I think Amarendra Prabhu made this point when he was here. He said like, one disciple was chanting for 40 years. He goes to his guru and say, Guru Maharaj, 40 years I'm chanting. I'm not getting any taste. And Guru says, okay, stop chanting. And then he stops for 1 week and is like, Guru Maharaj, I cannot stop chanting. I cannot. And Guru said, see, you have the taste. The taste is there, But maybe we are feeling that we don't have taste because as soon as we feel, oh, this is so nice, then what happens? Pride will come. And Krishna is protecting us from that pride. And hence he's actually saying, okay, that's why Krishna knows what is best for us. We don't know what is best for us, but Krishna knows. And hence he may withhold the taste because he knows that if I give this taste, then he'll be like, oh, people don't realize I'm a pure devotee of Krishna. And you start thinking that I'm so advanced, like people, they should respect me. The pride may come, and that is the fall of that person. That means that's it. As soon as pride comes over. So Krishna is protecting that person by giving just enough for that the sadhana keeps going on, goes on, goes on, goes on. And then at times the sadhaka actually says, Krishna, where is this? I have to be serious. I have to be serious. Let me focus on always better service. ABS formula, ABS, ABS. How can I improve? How can I improve? And Krishna is seeing, oh, now he's okay. Now he wants to improve. ABS, he's trying to do it. He's trying to do it. And Krishna knows what is best for us. So taste is there, But Krishna is not giving us that where we feel like, oh yeah, best japa, I'm crying tears of ecstasy. Saying, wait, hold on. If you do that, you'll become proud. But I want to protect your bhakti. So I'll give you everything at the right moment, at the right time. I know what is best for you. So that conviction in Krishna's reciprocation is there in the bhakta. Karna Purna Shakti Mati, do you have a point?
I forgot, but but in relationship to something that Divya Natara was saying, it's like the man who has jaundice. He can't taste the sweetness of the sugar. We all know sugar is sweet,
Yeah,
but
that's
because we have jaundice, we can't taste it. It seems bitter, and sometimes chanting is like that. It's the more we're covered by the modes of material,
hmm.
and as we become more and more purified, then we're able to relish the chanting.
Yes, the jaundice is a very nice example. Rupa Goswami gives. We may not taste it, but as we are progressing, then sugar will be sweet. But again, in that also, as the clearing is happening, the person is getting the taste. Right? He can taste the sugar. Initially, he may feel like, okay, no taste. It may taste bitter. Then it may taste, oh, I'm not getting any taste. Then, oh yeah, little bit sweetness. So it is also progressive. It's not that one day it is like, oh, it is bitter, bitter, and then all of a sudden like, oh, now it is sweet. No, similarly, our japa, our progression is step by step as we are going. Initially, we're like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then Hare Krishna again, and slowly get taste, 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 taste. And then we come to like how we see the advanced Vaishnavas, like I mentioned this earlier, like 2 years back, we were in Vrindavan and we went to meet Indravana Swami Maharaj. And we met him and immediately he was like, the morning I was doing my japa and I was thinking like, can there anything be more sweeter than the holy name? And the way he said it, so much conviction. It was like, wow, when will that day be mine? And they are actually experiencing it. The way he said that, can there anything be more sweeter than it's just like something he's experiencing something of the other world, that level. So yes, it is there. We just aspire and we just keep going on and on.
Prabhuji, I was listening to Radha Desh Mellow Kirtan and Madhava's Prabhu Kirtan towards the end. Just towards the end, when he was finishing up, I felt that he was actually doing japa while Kirtan. It was at that pace, and it was so sweet.
I mean, these devotees do have a taste, like otherwise going on for like hours and hours with the same melody, slow melody. Like, I mean, they really have a taste, right? So it will come, it will
Prabhu,
come.
when Mukundadatta Prabhu was visiting the last year when he came, he was staying at Nikunjavasini's house. At that time, one day we went to his house and he mentioned that once during his japa, he did all his rounds without the counters. Like he forgot that he has to drop the counter beats down. So he's just chanting, and when he saw zero, like it's like for the past 2-3 hours I'm chanting, but he forgot. Such absorption, bro. Like you don't even remember that you have to do that.
I mean, these are all very nice to hear, like we'll get this, we have examples of devotee who have such deep taste, so it will come. Right, so hopefully so. Okay, so let's continue. So basically this point is saying that the taste, why did we go for this whole discussion? Because the taste for a devotee was a taste. So Prabhupada is making taste is reciprocation of service and benediction, right? Krishna's benediction is there. He knows everything, he knows. At the right time, he'll give us. And then also Prabhupada here, he compares a materialistic working and a devotee working. A materialistic will build a big 10-story building. A devotee is also doing the same thing, but he'll build a temple for Krishna. So in the process is similar, right? A person will go and say like, okay, I need to build. That means land. He has to get the land. A devotee has to get land. Once he finds the land, then he has to get like a builder or constructor, and then he has to make a plan. Then he has to get the materials. Then he has to do this. Then he has to go get finances. So one way externally, they all are doing the same. Like, it may, like how that famous story of how Guru Das Prabhu was driving Prabhupada to Vrindavan and they were in the taxi, right? And, they're going together and Guru Das Prabhu is like, Like, wow, Prabhupada must be thinking of all this Radha Krishna Leela, and then, they were not talking, and then he was saying, I shouldn't disturb Prabhupada's meditation. And then Prabhupada said, cement. Where will we get cement from? And you were like, cement? Where is cement? So a devotee was also going through the same aspects, but he's doing it for Krishna. Externalism. So Prabhupada compares both of these. He says both of them are collecting wood, stone, etc. But a materialist is doing for his own satisfaction. A devotee is doing for Krishna's satisfaction. A materialist is a conditioned person. A devotee is a liberated person. Though he may externally getting wood, cement, but he's actually liberated. But the conditioned soul is conditioned. Right? His mind is fixed in sense gratification. A devotee's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Lord. He is bound by modes, and a devotee is independent of the modes. So you give like 4 or 5 points comparing both. 27.
I just want to add one point about the taste aspect, like that it's also good to like look over the offenses of the holy name, just make sure that maybe I'm committing one of the offenses, and maybe that's why the holy name is withholding the taste. Just to review okay, maybe one of these offenses I'm doing.
I mean, that consciousness should always be there, that, okay, why am I not getting the taste? Why am I not getting? Maybe I'm doing an offense. Maybe I'm not chanting Buddha. Maybe I'm not attentive in my japa. Maybe I'm just chanting japa as a ritual. I'm not really chanting japa. So that attentive. So see, Krishna may be withholding the taste so that we start thinking of all these things and say how we can ABS. Right? Everyone knows ABS formula. You go to your car, you see the ABS. Sometimes ABS light is on. Then you look at the light and say, what? Always better sadhana, always better seva. That means what? You're always thinking, how can you do better sadhana? How can you do better seva? Always we are thinking, always. Right? Like someone has always lower prices, but it's never low price. So our focus is what? Always better service. ABS, ABS. Right? Remember the ABS formula, both sadhana and seva. You're always thinking, how can I improve? How can I improve? Right? Maybe I'm doing this offense. How can I avoid? Okay, 27.
Yadaivam adhyatmaratah kalena bahujanmana sarvatra jata vairagya abrahma bhuvanan munihi.
When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness.
Right. So this is now, again, last 27, 28 to 30, last 4 verses, is the final liberation of the yogi. Right. So when does this happen? So here is saying, Yadaivam, Yada. So when, Evam, thus, Adhyatma Rataha, when he's engaged in this mood, right? What is this mood? Where he's acting without the influence of Prakriti. When he's in that situation, Kalena, for many years, Bahu Janma. Imagine, like when you're reading this point, it's like, isn't it already done? Attain perfection, right? No, it's saying for the jnani, in this state, many lifetimes, bahunam janmanam ante, jnanavan ma prapadete, right? So many lifetimes he has to be in that state. And then, jata vairagya, abrahma bhuvanal, right? Abrahma bhuvanal. So, and then in that state, he becomes completely detached. Detachment is born. Jata means born. Detachment is born. Sarvatra abrahma bhuvana. That means he is no longer aspiring to even go to Swargaloka or go to Brahmaloka. He's completely reluctant to enjoy anywhere, even up to Brahmaloka. So that conviction is there that nowhere in this material world I want to go. No, nowhere. Lifetime after lifetime, I'm just focused in this consciousness. And then Munihi, his consciousness becomes fully developed. Right? So, you know how our consciousness is compared to a lotus, which is closed, right? There's a budding state, and then the closed state, the budding state, and then the full-blown state. When we see full-blown state, One way we can say here it is Munihi. His consciousness is now fully developed. Okay, now Prabhupada in the purport, I mean, this purport is amazing. Prabhupada actually makes a point. There is a distinction between pure devotees and mixed devotee. Okay. And Prabhupada says, a mixed devotee engages in devotional service for the spiritual benefit of being eternally engaged in engaged in the transcendental abode of the Lord in full bliss and knowledge. Can anyone explain that sentence? A mixed devotee engages in devotional service for the spiritual benefit of being eternally engaged in transcendental abode of the Lord in full bliss and knowledge. Why is it mixed? Isn't that pure?
It's not, because he still wants something. You know, if you look at the gopis, they just want to love Krishna. They just want to serve Krishna in any condition.
Yeah, actually, in this purport, like Prabhupada is making all these points, and you'll be like, wow, that is pure devotional. Like he's talking of this as mixed devotional. What is it? He's engaging in devotional service, but what is his desire? I want to go back home, back to God. And Prabhupada saying that is mixed devotional service. It's like, what? That's mixed? You know, that like we may have like desires like, oh, I want to still enjoy this material world, or I want to be Krishna, I'm doing bhakti, please keep me protected in this world. That's a material desire, right? Let everything be good in my life, I will do bhakti. It's all material. Prabhupada saying even the desire of going back to Godhead, that is also mixed devotion. Right? So Prabhupada is here in this purport taking all the way to the highest level of bhakti, which is that as Mataji mentioned, that of the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis no longer, they don't have a desire. Krishna, we want to go back home, back to Godhead. They have no desire. They are just like completely in love with Krishna. So that's the point. And then Prabhupada also says further.
Prabhuji, if a devotee has a desire to go back to the spiritual world, but they want to go back where Krishna is because they want to serve Krishna there. Isn't it that desire pure? They just want to be with Krishna because for example, gopis also, if Krishna has gone to Mathura, they are always crying. They just want to be with Krishna because they want to serve Krishna.
Actually, see, the point is like, okay, that is one point that we are saying, okay, we want to go back home, back to Godhead, so we want to serve Krishna. Now, there is another state where a devotee may say, wherever Krishna you want to send me, I will continue to serve you. You want to send me hell? Like how Prabhupada said, we'll go to hell. There also will serve Krishna. Which is higher? Certainly that state is higher where they are irrespective of where we are. We will actually serve Krishna. Krishna, you put me in the lowest of hell, I will serve you. You put me anywhere, I will serve you. And then what do we see in Shishtastakam? Yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampatu mat prananathas saevanam. Krishna, you don't want to be present before me? It's okay. I will still serve you. I will always think about you. So here Prabhupada is actually referring to that state of the gopis. Where, I mean, one way we can say like the gopis, like they would have said like, Krishna has gone to Mathura. How far is Vrindavan and Mathura? Not too far. They say Krishna has gone to Mathura. Let's go to Mathura. Why did the gopis, they are crying and we have the entire Akrura episode? Why? They could have just said, okay, Krishna, you're going, we'll follow you. We'll stay in Mathura. No, they did not. Why? Because they knew that Krishna will get happiness only in Vrindavan. So they are not thinking of them, that we have to be with Krishna, we want to serve Krishna. No. When Krishna is in Vrindavan, Krishna will experience the highest happiness. So they are complete observation. There is nothing about themselves. We don't care about ourselves. And then the gopis were ready to give up their life. But they were saying that Krishna said that he will come back. And if he comes back and he does not see us, then he will not be happy. So we'll just hold our life just so that when Krishna comes, then Krishna can enjoy with us. That level of selfless, that's what Prabhupada is actually pointing out in this purport. So actually, when you read this, it's like, isn't that pure devotion? Like we'll be reading pure devotion, that's a mix. And then Prabhupada says the highest example of pure devotion service is that of gopis of Vrindavan. That platform of love is the pure state of devotion service. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When I read that statement again about the definition given for mixed devotee, it says engaged in devotional service for the spiritual benefit. So they are looking for some benefit, and that is why they are mixed devotees. Whereas the gopis, they are not looking for any kind of benefit.
Yeah, there is no me in that. It is only Krishna. What is best for Krishna? That is their only absorption. How can Krishna be pleased? That's their only absorption. Right? So that point is that selfless degree to the highest extent. That's what Prabhupada is talking about. But as sadhakas, we have to make the point that, maybe our motivation here is, oh, this material world, so much suffering, Krishna, I just want to come back to you. I mean, if we are honest with ourselves, maybe that is our motivation to engage in sadhana. And that may be okay at our level. And we may not be at a state like, Krishna, I will come back lifetime after lifetime to serve you. Like, no, Krishna, Maya is too strong. I am not strong to actually, be aloof from this influence of Prakriti. Krishna, you please take me. That may be our state, and we have to be honest with where we are. And maybe that's our motivation. But we know the highest is where we are. As Prabhupada showed, like, we'll go to hell, we'll preach Krishna consciousness there. Where there's no consideration of their benefit. It's all for Krishna seva. Okay, 28, 29.
Madbhakta pratibudharto madprasadena bhujasa nishreyasam swasamsthanam kaivalyakhyam mad ashrayam prapnoti hanjasa dhira swadrisha chinna samshayah yadgatvana nivarteta yogi lingad vinigram game.
Who's next?
Vrindavan.
My devotee actually becomes self-satisfied by my unlimited causeless mercy, and thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfection goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. Hare Krishna.
Like how, Bhagavad Gita says, Tadhama Yad Gatvana Nivartante Tadhama Paramama. Right? One who goes to that abode never returns. So here, again, this last few verses is the final liberation of the yogi and says, Mad Bhakta Prati Buddharto. So immediately what is saying? Bhakta. Bhakti. So again, that point of, yes, we are talking of jnanis, they are not affected by by influence of Prakriti. And then we have talked of how Kapila has recommended bhakti. And then finally it comes to a point that the devotee is clearly saying, my devotee by my mercy will actually attain that Nishreyasam, the ultimate abode, which is actually called Kaivalya. So that ultimate abode here is actually, he's saying Swa Samsthanam is actually called Kaivalya. And then under my protection, he's there. Okay. So, right. So he attains that state, ultimate abode called Kaivalya under my protection. And having attained that, he never comes back. And this way, Yogi Lingat Vinirgame. The mystic yogi gives up the subtle and the gross body. So that both the material body, for sure, the yogi gives up. And even subtle body, he actually gives up. In that way, he attains the highest perfection. Where did we read this previously? about giving up the gross body and then giving up subtle body and then attaining Krishna.
Brahma.
Which one?
When Brahma is doing his creation, then he gives his subtle bodies when
Okay, that's one aspect because he does something negative and then he gives up subtle
gives
body.
up the
Where,
subtle body.
where do we read about this liberation where a person gives up the gross body and then we read that his earth element merged with the earth element of the universe, then water element merged with water, and then step by step he went higher, higher, higher.
Dhritarashtra also did the same thing.
Dhritarashtra is there, and then even with the Pandavas we read how they gave up their body in the first canto. Right? Even they actually, we read about Yudhishthir, all the elements getting up and then finally everything. So here, yogi lingat vinirgame, the mystic yogi giving up all the subtle body and the gross body. And then yat gatvana nivartate. Having attained that supreme abode, he never comes back. So he's attained that final perfection. Okay, so Prabhupada says actual self-realization means becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Devotee of the Lord implies function of devotion and object of devotion. That means what? There's bhakta, there is bhakti, and there is bhagwan. Right? All three. Bhakta, bhakti, and bhagwan. Right? Okay. And then also this Prabhupada focuses on mat prasadena. Only by Krishna's mercy this is possible. We cannot enter into the spiritual world by our own endeavor. By Krishna's mercy, we can actually enter. Right? And then Prabhupada also talks of the Nishrayasya, ultimate destination. Right? Devotee attains the devotee specific abode based on his mentality. That will be the ultimate destination. Right. So Prabhupada also focuses on this word Kaivalya. Right? I mean, normally Kaivalya means what? Impersonal liberation. Right? Because there's a verse which says, Kaivalya Narakayate, Tridasha Akasha Pushpayate. You know this verse? Prabhupada Saraswati. Yes? I've quoted it a few times. Prabhupada often quotes this. Kaivalya Narakayate. So that Prabhupada Saraswati is saying that Kaivalya is Narkayate. It's like hellish. So that Kaivalya is referring to impersonal liberation. But here Kaivalya is actually Prabhupada explains that Kaivalya is, yes, the Brahma Jyoti, but in the Brahma Jyoti there are so many different planets. And when here it says Nishraya, it is one of the planets in the Brahma Jyoti. And which is that planet? Based on Swasamsthana. Based on that yogi's meditation, he attains one of the planets in the spiritual sky. Right? So that's the point. And Prabhupada talks of Vaikuntha, and the best of Vaikuntha is Krishna Loka. Okay. And yeah, so it gives up the subtle and gross body, enters the spiritual sky in pure spiritual body. Right? And then Prabhupada says the impersonalists, they merge into spiritual effulgence. This is all based on the desire of the jiva. So again, going back to how we started the class today, two options for the Jnani. Either he takes the path of bhakti and then enters the Vaikuntha, or he desires to merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Last sloka.
Prabhuji, quick question. What is meant by mystic devotee here? Is it a magical devotee or is it a highly elevated devotee?
Okay, the yogi, right?
The yogi, yeah. So why is the yogi being defined as a mystic devotee?
Because see, what is the process that we are reading now? It is bhakti with sankhya.
Knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge. Right. And then next chapter is bhakti with dhyana yoga. So here, when we are talking of how Kapila Dev is explaining, he is not talking. Initially, he started with pure devotion service. That was 25. But then he's talking of bhakti and gyan, how they can attain perfection. Bhakti and yoga, how they can attain perfection. Like both of these together. So hence the word yogi is referred that it is not just bhakti, pure bhakta. He's doing, yes, he's coming to a stage of bhakti, but he's actually using the aspect of Gyan and also the aspect of yoga. So hence the
So,
word yogi. So mystic actually refers to, see, when a person is doing dhyana yoga, he's often called mystic yogi. Why? Because by doing dhyan yoga, one gets mystic powers, which are 8 in number, like anima, lagima, prapti, etc., etc. So this mystic yoga, it will actually come in text 30 also. Why that mystic yoga aspect is actually said here.
so would Gyan Yoga and Dhyan Yoga both fall under mystic yoga?
Mostly it is referred to Astanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga actually. Right? Mostly it is referred to Dhyana Yoga. Yeah. See, we'll read the next verse and maybe that will
Okay,
also answer your
sure.
question. Text 30.
Hare Krishna.
Yada na yogo pachita sucheto maya susiddhasya vishajjatenga ananya hetu shvata me gati syad atyantiki yatra na mrityuhasaha.
Translation: When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him.
Hmm. So here again we see the word yoga, right? Yogo pachitasu. Just trying to share my screen. So, so what is this verse saying? This verse is actually making the point that is saying yada, when siddhasya, that perfect yogi, chetaha, attention, na sivsajate, it is not attracted to yoga upachitasu. What is yoga upachitasu? That when one actually engages in this yoga, then what does he get? He gets mystic siddhis. He can become lighter than the lightest, he become heavier than the heaviest, right? He can and become small and enter through a keyhole. Right? He can actually control the minds of other people. Right? All these are mystic siddhis. And these mystic siddhis, as the yogi is progressing, he gets all these. But if the yogi is deviated, attracted to this, then again fall down. So hence here it's actually making the point. When that yogi, that siddhasya, that perfect yogi, is not attracted to these powers, right, which are actually mayasu, which are actually manifestation of Maya. Maya is testing the yogi by giving all these powers. Then, my dear mother, O Anga, ananya hetasu, having no other cause, then me gatihi syat atyang titi. Then he progresses towards me, he becomes he progresses towards me, and yatra mrityu hasa, he actually overcomes that power of death. He actually conquers death at that moment. Okay, so to Mate's question that why is yoga mentioned, and here we again make the point that how a mystic yoga is actually blessed with all these mystic siddhis, but if he is not deviated by that and then his attention is fixed, then he can attain the highest perfection. Okay. Rashimati, I mean, that's the point about all these sections. It's like not just bhakti. There is bhakti plus gyan, bhakti plus yoga, and that's how Kapila Muni is actually explaining these sections.
But in this time, like in this yuga, doing yoga is more for controlling, maybe controlling the mind or stuff like that. So this mystic like yoga in this time period would not refer to mystic yoga at all, right?
Now it is
Okay.
Harinameva Kevalam.
Okay.
It's only bhakti because all these other, someone may do like some aspect of yam for physical health, and maybe that physical health is, he needs to maintain his body. He may do something, just so that he's healthy to serve Krishna. But that has nothing to do with his progress. It's not that through that yoga he's progressing in bhakti. It may be something that's just helping him do bhakti. you know. But now bhakti, I mean, the progress is only through bhakti, that to particularly chanting of the holy name.
And what does this mean? Does the power of death cannot overcome him? Is that meaning that they're no longer afraid of death, or does
Yeah.
it have another meaning?
And no longer afraid, but they have conquered death. They
What does
have
that mean? Like no longer birth, no longer rebirth?
For sure, no longer birth, that for sure. But how Prabhupada explains that how for a devotee, I mean, here again we are talking of devotee and also yogi, that for these people, what is it? That externally it appears that, oh, at the time of death they close their eyes. But for these people, it is not death like how a materialistic goes through. For them, it's close their eyes, they open their eyes, and they're in Vaikuntha. So Prabhupada says for these people, death is just like going to sleep. They sleep, they wake up, and then they're in Vaikuntha. Yeah. So it is unlike the death for materialists. So there's no fear of death. They have conquered death in that way. Mrityu, like in how we read that Dhruva Maharaj story, when he is actually liberated, then what happens? When that Vaikuntha airplane comes to take Dhruva, then he wants to climb onto the airplane. But he sees death, who's the Mrityu personified, is actually standing there with folded hands. And he sees this as an opportunity and places his feet on Mrityu personified, and then he climbs onto the airplane. Imagine that. That means that Mrityu is there, but she's standing with folded hands. You're a devotee, how can I serve you? And devotee says, well, I'm just using you to cross over this material world and to enter the spiritual reality. So it's no longer that death is attacking that person. He's actually overcome that power of death. He's actually Dhruva is keeping his feet on the head of death personified Mrityu and then getting onto the airplane.
Gina,
And are we?
in earlier class, you said that for a devotee, he is just a change of body. He is listening to Krishna Katha now, and when he will change the body, he will be listening to Krishna Katha again.
Yes, the activities of bhakti continue. Yes. Yes, Mati, Rashimati.
It'll come back to me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes, I came back. So can that happen only if you have taken the path of bhakti? Or can that happen with any other kind of yoga where you have control of mind and senses and you are equanimous, you have no fear? Can it happen in that state as well? Or can that happen only if there is bhakti?
See here clearly.
The not being afraid of overcoming the power of death.
Now here, what is Krishna saying? Mat prasadena. See, when will we actually be free from the fear of death? When will we conquer death? When we know our next destination. Otherwise, there'll always be fear. Because see, the biggest fear of death is certainly our breaking all the attachments that, oh, I have all these attachments and that's going to break. And the next fear is uncertainty. Where will I go after this phase?
But
Right?
isn't that faith? Isn't that having faith that, okay, you have lived a life of goodness. You have done everything that you have heard, read, associated with everything. You have done it right. Now you have the faith that, you are being equanimous in this, in this birth. Though you have attachments, you are still equanimous. You're not hankering for those attachments. And you have faith that because of all this, your next life, either, you're not getting a rebirth, or it's going to be continued as a life of goodness and life of service, or whatever that last wish or state of mind was.
I mean, the point is there that the stronger the attachments, the more painful is the experience.
Correct.
So
Agreed.
as a person comes to the mode of goodness, because that modes of passion and ignorance, that binding is not so strong, then yes, it does become, that is not as painful as for a person who has, the stronger attachment. That's for sure. But uh but the point is, okay, mode of goodness, okay, maybe it is less painful than the others. But what is it for a devotee? For devotee is just like, oh, I'm serving Krishna. Okay, another change. Like just like someone may say, I'm serving Krishna here in New Goloka Dham. Now there is some other requirement in another temple. I'm going and serving there. Just like that for a devotee, I'm serving Krishna here, and now after that, another place I'm going to continue my service. So there is no, like wherever he goes, the devotee is like, I don't care. Anywhere I go, I'm serving Krishna. So that level, that complete shelter under Krishna, that cannot be compared to even a devotee even a person who is in the mode of goodness. That personal protection of Krishna, just like, a child having that, that shelter under the parents. Like my father is here, he will take care of me completely. The shelter in the heart that, yes, Krishna is there, he will take care. Why do I have to worry? That mood can only be attained by a devotee.
The fifth element.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that example you always give about cooking, right? You can do everything, you can do all that, but that end result is not in your hand. It's that fifth element, which is the blessing of. I absolutely appreciate like that example.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So this is how this chapter ends. I was just going to show the last. So Prabhupada in his purport, he actually quotes that verse which we talk about every time. Kaivalyam narkayate tridashapura akasha pushpayate. You want to see this verse? It is quoted it is not the verse, but it's quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 10.177. So CC Madhya 10 chapter 177 verse. In the purport, you will find this verse with the meaning. And Prabhupada gives a very nice, Prabhupada goes often, but in this he gives an elaborate meaning to that verse. Kaivalyam narkayate tridashapura akasha pushpayate. And then particularly why is Prabhupada actually quoting this verse? Because he's saying Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. Right? So Prabhupada says the entire world he sees as a replica of Vaikuntha for a devotee because he has no anxiety. So even this world he sees, oh, replica of Vaikuntha. I mean, here also I'm serving Krishna, there also I'll go and serve Krishna. So what is the problem, right? He simply wants to engage everything in the service of the Lord. And okay, I'm just going to show this last.
Babaji, but for us, Guru's instructions help us because even if Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, but he was thinking that how can I go to West and execute the order of my spiritual master? He was not thinking that okay, I will serve in Vrindavan because I'm here now. No, he was thinking that how can I go to the West because that's the order my Guru Maharaj has given me.
Okay, so what have we seen in the last section? Basically, it talks about the final liberation of the yogi, and again the point that after many lifetimes in that situation, then he will actually come to the ultimate abode, and that attainment is only by the mercy of Krishna. Mat prasadena is the key word, and the mystic siddhis will come, but if he's not deviated, then he can actually overcome that and attain the Vaikuntha. So from this, what we have seen, how a Gyan yogi will finally come to the stage of Vaikuntha. Right? And finally, he also has to come to the point of bhakti, hearing about Krishna for a long time, and then finally he can attain Vaikuntha. Okay, everyone okay with this flow? So from the previous chapter, 26 and 27 is basically continuing from Sankhya Yoga, progress, and then today coming to the point of how we discuss, when he has that option of either merging into Brahman or taking shelter, and then when he does bhakti, how he progresses, and finally he gets liberated. So that's the entire journey of a Sankhya yogi. Now, next chapter we'll go to Astanga yogi, and again we'll come through Astanga yogi how the person can attain perfection.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, one question.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned about the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. What verse number is that for the Kaivalya?
10:177. It's not the actual verse, but Prabhupada quotes this in the verse.
Thank you.
10:177. It's a very nice verse and a very beautiful explanation, actually. If you want, you can just see quickly here. This is what Prabhupada is saying. Kaivalya Narkayate Tridashapur Akashapur. And here, Prabhupada said, entire world is a replica of Vaikuntha for a devotee because he has no anxiety. He sees that everything belongs to Krishna and he does not want to enjoy anything for himself. He does not even aspire for the position of Lord Brahma or Lord Indra. He simply wants to engage everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he has no problem. He stands in his original constitutional position. All this is possible when one receives Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful glance. So the last line is, Yat karunya kataksha vaibhav Vatam tam gauram evastuma. When we receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all this becomes possible. It's a beautiful verse, Prabhupada Saraswati. Okay, so thank you all so much. So we'll stop here. So I hope this is okay. And then next week we'll continue with the aspects of yoga and see how Astanga Yogi will attain perfection. Thank you all so much. And here, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhubhya vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo,
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.